Topic here is the reading covering. And for today's class, we're going to do a brief look at the reading Homophobia, Why Bring It Up, the Stonewall excerpt, as well as the reading covering Why Bring It Up. So I'm going to refer back to this particular slide here, and we've addressed this in class. And what I'm trying to do is to get you to think about how the Black Civil Rights Movement inspired others. And before you know it, you start to see Native Americans, women with organizations like Witches come forward, the Sexual Revolution, Chicanos, and all of these other groups that kind of use similar approaches and strategies after seeing some of the successes of the Black Civil Rights Campaign. For today, we're going to mostly focus on the gay rights movement, the homophile movement. And in the 1950s, there was one organization in particular called the Mattachine Society. The Mattachine Society, and their issue was first being kicked out of the military. Many of their core members were former veterans from World War II who were kicked out of the military after homosexuals were removed from the military and given blue discharges. Eventually, they started to address the issue of entrapment in Executive Order 10450, and then a man by the name of Frank Kameny would try to challenge the Psychiatric Association along with the woman called Barbara Giddings, who was the leader of an organization called Daughters of Militis. Throughout this point, homosexuals were considered to be sexual deviants and potentially pedophiles, which is where that particular stereotype and belief system comes from. For this reading, we're looking at pretty much the first section. And in the first section, it talks about the author addresses an issue where a nightclub that is known to have a frequent gay black male population has been targeted by the local police. And the author is questioning why Black civil rights leaders are not coming to the aid of the Black gay men as they are being harassed and targeted and discriminated against. The author's article title is Homophobia, Why Bring It Up? And ultimately what she is arguing here is that gay oppression is the last oppression. And eventually, in her view, hopefully it will go away. Today we're going to be looking at first the Stonewall laws, which we were asked to do for homework. And in this section here, you see some of the laws that were used to target the gay population. For the covering section, you want to know the definition of covering, and then you want to locate examples of covering in your personal life. The reading uses a couple of examples, and the example here looks at this particular case where there is a dress code in place, and the dress code does not allow certain hairstyles. And in this case, the woman is claiming that this particular hairstyle here has a cultural significance. If it has a cultural significance, is the airline industry, American Airlines, discriminating against her outward expression of this particular cultural group with regard to that particular hairstyle? And that seems to be the issue. Now, the question is whether or not the airline industry can mandate certain hairstyles if those hairstyles or even religious identifiable clothing is connected to religion or somebody's race or ethnicity. And ultimately, what covering is about is trying to tell you to mute outward expressions of your culture and religion and your race and so on. And that's pretty much what the reading is about. What you want to figure out here is whether or not covering is an example, an act that can be identified on the pyramid of hate as well as the vicious cycle. The reading uses another example, and this particular example involves a wedding that's planned and whether or not employment can be terminated as a result of issues that's come out of this particular wedding with regard to this particular woman. I'm not going to say too much about it because I don't want to take away your ability to kind of process this on your own. What you want to do is figure out whether or not this example, once again, can be placed into the vicious cycle or the pyramid of hate. Here yet we have another example. You have the summary and the situation, and you once again want to figure out whether or not this is an issue that can be part of the vicious cycle and identified in the pyramid of hate. We have some other scenarios, and this scenario is being selected because we want to determine whether or not this situation can lead to feelings of social disadvantage and prejudice and discrimination, whether or not it can also be placed on the pyramid of hate. And that's it for this particular assignment. For the most part, what we were trying to do is look at the treatment of homosexuals, which is why we use the Stonewall reading, and then make connections to the Covering reading and use some examples that connect to race, ethnicity, and religion. That's it.